Tom's magic test results are not satisfactory, but also. William was sitting by the only window in the cell where the sun could shine, telling a serious story to the surrounding prisoners, but this time the story was just started when it was interrupted by the prisoner who was booing below. Magic exam? What exam? OWL or N.E.W.T. Shut up, I'm going to talk about it or you. William cast a blank glance at the loudest prisoner, who chuckled and shrank. Ahem, William cleared his throat, gathered the crowd's attention again, and said, Tom's magic exam results were not satisfactory, but he was admitted to Hogwarts. Hogwarts is not taken. Freshmen who are admitted will receive a letter from OWL directly. William was silent, and stared at the guy who kept lifting the bar. Beat him. Is just telling a story. Applying the background of the story gives you a sense of substitution. Is this thing used to provoke? Besides, he is not to be blamed for any loopholes. The Harry Potter story is at the level of a movie he has seen. It is not bad to remember the name Hogwarts. When he crosses over, he opens his eyes. Cabin prison is bad enough. It's enough for him to cheer up and tell a story. Why does he demand so many details? If it weren't for the sake of improving his status in the cell, he would not even have the thought to speak. The magical knowledge in his mind is a huge treasure for him, just as a glutton meets a fly restaurant, and a picky reader meets a tasteful 100. Wanza works, LSP meets the famous Autumn Mountains. The whole unknown but satisfying curiosity new world opened the door in front of him, as if the lottery ticket had scratched out the words congratulations. He wished to abandon the prisoners and study the magic alone, but obviously it was impossible. This is Azkaban, the wizarding prison. Unsocial people will not only be squeezed out, but also beaten. This is an 8-person cell for light prisoners. 8 iron beds are firmly fixed on the ground by magic, occupying most of the cell's space. There is a pool against the wall, and the toilet is next to the bed in the dark, plus a dilapidated iron table, which is also fixed, is all the possessions of this cell. The 8 prisoners are divided into 3 classes. 2 guys who can get Azkaban's scarce supplies are naturally the first-class characters. The 3 who can talk and get involved include William as the second class, and the remaining 3 the unlucky person can only become the third gear for work and miscellaneous tasks. The one who was beaten at the moment was the third gear. It was much earlier than William, and the crime was not serious. When he was on the subway in Muggle World, he said that he was slapped, and was punched by a violent Muggle. After the 2 fight each other, this product hasn't beaten anyone. He sneaked in and used magic to turn each other into a pig in a place where no one was there. Then he surrendered himself. Because of the little influence, he was sentenced to 3 years. William Jr., I just don't have a door on my lips, don't mind you, brothers are still waiting. The guy who was kicked while holding his head and squatting wasn't annoyed. Obviously the guys who kicked him left the scene without much effort. In Azkaban's daily life, everything except the prisoners is lacking. It's the supreme pleasure to be able to listen to some fresh stories. He just owes a bit of his mouth, and William, who is really going to provoke him, will not tell him. He has to reward himself. 2 clicks. You will see the movie first. I will change the outline of the story and talk about it tomorrow. Lying in the sun, William waved his hand, ready to go straight to the pigeonth story is indeed not polished very delicately. There are too many loopholes, it must be changed. Everyone sighed in disappointment, and then began to fumble through the gap between the bed or the wall. The pieces of paper folded into various shapes were carefully opened by them, and the scenes that had been played countless times appeared in front of everyone again. These fragments were smuggled in with food, and they were counted in the transaction of the prisoners of Azkaban. The only drawbacks of the high-value items of the game are their scarcity, fragmented plot, and high repeat rate. More importantly, those guarding Dementors will consciously confiscate items with magical fluctuations in the cell, which makes this kind of scattered paper extremely easy to be confiscated. Just as a group of people passed the pieces of paper that they had read many times to each other, the 9 fingers at the edge of the cell suddenly groaned. His hand that was holding the piece of paper dropped, and his body trembled uncontrollably, and then desperately used trembling hands to push the pieces of paper into the cracks in the wall. All the people in the same prison changed their faces. After hiding the paper in a hurry, they lay down close to the bed. Those who were too late either leaned against the wall or simply lay on the ground. Then, a suffocation was felt. The coldness descended on the entire cell, and everyone trembled unanimously, with their hands tightly clasped in front of their chests, their bodies curled up, desperately shrinking themselves to a minimum. The heavy prison door was pushed open by the fingers, the rusty door shaft creaked, and the ragged black cloak penetrated through the door. Then, you read www.youcanshu.com floated in as a guard Dementor. The face firmly wrapped in the black cloak slowly turned towards everyone, then nodded, as if satisfied with the food this time, then, the creaking sound again, and the door was heavily closed. After a long time, the curse came out from the cell. This group of blackskins has never come to a fixed point. If it weren't for Laozi's fast hand, this time I lost something again. The voice is a little weak. I have been with this group of Dementors for a long time, and all the prisoners reacted more severely to the Dementors than normal people. The light prisoners here are better, like those heavy criminals, except for a few special people, the rest are extremely weak in their daily lives. 9 fingers, your kid is okay. When the black skin comes, you can hold on to hide things. When the next newcomer comes, the watchman's corner will let him do it for you. The fact that did not suffer a loss obviously made the head of the cell in a very good mood, and he promised to sleep on the bed next to the toilet, which was closest to the aisle. While was talking, he fumbled for his bunk, generously took out 8 chocolate balls, and threw one to everyone. In Azkaban, where Dementors haunt from time to time, chocolate is a kind of warm existence, and belongs to the top level of hard currency. Even the Golden Canaan does not have the good use of chocolate here. Food supplement every week. There are so many things in the boat, which is not enough. William took the chocolate, thanked weakly, and opened the package tremblingly, greedily feeling the warmth brought by the chocolate melting in his mouth. There is still 1 year in prison, so that the Dementor will have another year to come to eat once a day. Fortunately, the magical materials in my mind that I have never seen before can hold up even for 10 years, let alone hope that this thing will exist not a year long. Azkaban is a prison. No matter what terrifying title or strange legends the outside world gives it, it cannot change the fact that it is a prison. Even if the predecessor who had no promise was frightened to death when he heard that he was going to Azkaban after being tried, he can't say that the prisoners in this prison live better than death every day. If that's the case, this prison it was banned long ago. This is the only prison in the magical world in the UK. Whether you are a male or female prisoner, a light sentence or a heavy sentence, you will be sent to Azkaban after you have been sentenced. If this place does not distinguish between the prisoners, everyone will be treated directly. If they are locked together, life will be killed in various senses in the prison. Minor criminals like William will be kept in a multi-person cell, and the Dementors who patrol will not stay here all day. They come here every day to eat in the name of the rounds, and during the rest of the period Dementors will not come here. One is to reduce the protests of prisoners who are released, and the other is to give these people time to brew new happiness. And among these light prisoners who can stay out of contact with Dementors for a long time, there is still weak social communication. The food, alcohol, books, and newspapers that have been carried in various ways are circulated and consumed among these light prisoners, and a new trading system has been established here. 9 pieces of chocolate, newly purchased by the owner of Lihen bookstore, 7 pages. 5 yuan. Don't talk nonsense, what a fairy tale I brought last time. Deals like this were quickly reached among the prisoners who got together, and the hitters who were temporarily transferred as guards turned a blind eye to these deals for them. This was not a tiring job, and even a lot of money each time. Jin Jialong. This is a big release once a month, and it is also the hottest day of trading on the island. The Dementors will not participate in this operation unless necessary. They are unwilling to absorb their ability to the happiness around them, and would rather let the Ministry of Magic strikers do it for them. The prisoners were gathered on this day, cleaned the hair on their heads, drank the potion that resists common diseases in prison, and brought a complete magical cleanup, which obviously cannot be done when the Dementors are present. And at this moment, William is being fooled by the big guy in the same cell. Big guy is 1.9 meters long, but the main business in the prison is similar to the work of the second trafficker. When bartering, the two sides exchange prices. When you call him over and do a simple calculation, you can complete the business. He himself has the right to smoke a candy or a cigarette. This product was in a similar business before it came in. When the attacker caught the black market, he was targeted because of his size, but he didn't slip away. The Toyer sentence was not too heavy. He is now persuading William to open a book club or something, not to sell books, but to pull a group of prisoners to secretly talk about books for half an hour, sell tickets, and William is in charge of telling him that he is responsible for collecting money and letting go. Received 6 or 4 points for things, William 6 or 4. Taking advantage of the large amount of supplies brought in today, the two of them may not be able to make a small fortune. Listen to me, William Jr., this is a decent business. You want to come outside for such a period, and you can't even get the odds in the prison. The blower helps to see people. Can you get this treatment outside? Being serious, you don't have any points in your heart? William didn't bother to pay attention to him. This is not the first time that the big man persuaded him. I have said the reasons for coming down so many times. This guy still refuses to give up, so let him talk about it. Anyway, William didn't cultivate a major here. The plan to pile up book fans was told in prison for the purpose of gangster treatment. His sentence is not long. Can he rely on this to save a pile of Jin Jialong in the cell as an extra income? The prisoner in the prison didn't plan to pay so much for a story. This is a mixed prison. If it is a purely male prison, it is too late to smear his face. How could he come out to tell the story and get treated? The reason why he endured the big complaint was to hide his identity. He was sent to Azkaban when he came over, and a teammate who was smuggled was also arrested. The original sentence was the lightest, but he was the only one who was arrested. Frightened to death, many teammates are still squatting in Azkaban. Those few were also unlucky. I thought that there was nothing wrong with stuffing enough money. But when the Minister of Magic changed his term, the new Minister Fudge wanted to fulfill his campaign promise to strictly arrest smuggling. When the striker appeared, he thought it was black and black, except for the original. The timid one who didn't dare to do it was counted as one, and all were convicted of a bunch of crimes, and the lightest one was 10 years. They couldn't even recognize William when they saw William. The Dementors' long-term guards made them lose most of their self-care ability, and they followed the prisoners almost mechanically. This made William breathe a sigh of relief, but at the same time, he couldn't help but feel sad. The rabbit is sad and the fox is sad, and it hurts his kind. If he is not a coward in his original body, he will probably not be better after crossing over. The big one took William by the shoulders, turned him and walked to the other side, and said, "Well, William Jr., don't look at it, they won't know, the felons can hardly stay awake." Yes, the black-skinned greedy gang even wanted to chew our bones and swallow them, so take care of yourself first. After sighing, he added, "In fact, they are better than us. The sentence has passed in a daze. It is our side who really suffers. Heapy will only come here every day." Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com. This guy still don't pay. Speaking of this, the big man shrugged his shoulders exaggeratedly, and made William amused. Okay, I know you are popular, but I didn't expect those blackskins to like you so much. Next time you stand with your back to the door and try, maybe the blackskins really won't enter the door. Go, but that's okay, but you have to promise us that we will have a book meeting, divided into 4 and 6. William took 2 steps to the left, and directly distanced himself from the big one. In the days when the wind was blowing, the clock seemed to be magical. William did not even feel the passage of time before the sun sank to the west. The strikers checked each other's identities to confirm the number of people, and the Dementors appeared on the stage and began to eagerly eat. They greedy. It's been a day. The prisoners were taken back to their cells. After a delicious meal, the Dementors locked the heavy prison doors, leaving 7 prisoners behind. 7. Where is the liar? Everyone panicked, and it's not a good thing to disappear in jail if it wasn't for jailbreaking, or for death. The kiss of the Dementor is not a legend. If someone has a conclusive escape from prison, that group of guys will really kill. If it is a successful escape, then it is inevitable that the sentence of the remaining people will increase, and this will be even more miserable. Wait, don't panic, look for something. After a quick check, it became clear. All the cannon that everyone had kept in private disappeared, and the more valuable chocolates in the prison remained in place. If you escaped from prison, these foods to replenish physical strength would definitely not be able to keep. The answer is obvious. That kid was released from prison and took away a startup fund. It is conceivable that the one who left has already known that he will be released today. But he resisted the excitement in his heart and didn't tell anyone. The magic world says big or small, and if that guy deliberately hides, it will probably be difficult to see him again. William's own loss was not big, only about a dozen gallons. The rest of the people added up scattered, and lost almost 300 gallons. Although the purchasing power of this thing in prison is limited, it is still hard currency, and everyone is lazy to hide it on weekdays. Whoever wanted to be released from prison today? I sat down angrily, and the good mood that had been accumulated for a day in the wind was gone just when everyone was aggrieved and silent. Noisy footsteps came from outside the cell. As the cell door was opened, a short fat man with a shaggy beard and a tattered jacket was pushed in by the batter. New neighbor. The batter said to William and them in a cheerful tone, as if he was announcing some good news. The prison door was heavily closed, and everyone who was sitting on their respective beds stood up. All the sorrows on their faces disappeared. Although inaccurate, if half of the prison is scum, then there must be a fish slipping through the net. 9 Fingers were the first to bear the brunt of the matter. The head of the cell just approved him to change his bed yesterday, and he is the most active at the moment. Newcomer? What did you commit? Helped the Ministry of Magic to transport some cheap crucibles. The newcomer squatted down obediently, without making any resistance. Everyone laughed low, and the big one whistled at William. William, your fellow. It was Williams that responded to him. No. I know you, Mondungus Fletcher. 9 Fingers let out a vicious cry. It's you. I almost broke my leg when I crossed the boundary last time. Okay. The big guy tilted his head, his originally kind eyes became cold, and today he has lost the most cannon, and the most annoying is the liar. Soon, the cloth used to clean the toilet was stuffed into the mouth of this newcomer named Monton. Bite tight, if it makes a little noise, soak your head in the toilet overnight today. While putting the rags in, the 9 Fingers warned softly in the ears of the newcomer. Next, there was the sound of for half an hour, and one was tired and replaced with the other. By the time the person who started the move turned to the 3rd round, Monton, who had been beating his head, got up with his hands and feet, and rushed to William. He had already figured out who could say it in the cell after being beaten. Then, decided to bet on the kindness of the young man. William thought that the opponent had been beaten severely and was planning to find a Luwe who could beat him. When he was about to dodge and copy the guy, the opponent stopped far and knocked his head desperately. This made him hesitate. It didn't take long for him to cross over. After telling a few stories and telling some bad things, he was accepted by the group, and he became a jailer. He didn't go through the Luwe stage and looked at someone like this. It's a bit difficult. In the middle of his hesitation, a noise came in his mind. The 7th magical creature recognized you, and the treasure chest is being drawn. The floating transparent frame unfolded in front of William's eyes, a wooden box with an iron lock was opened, and then 3 light white transparent cards appeared in front of him. The picture on the cards was all the guy in front of him. Escape to Monton. In the process of helping Harry Potter transfer, Monton abandoned his teammates, causing serious deviations in the plan. Skill escape. Destroy this card and activate a phantom shift that must not be intercepted. Monton the thief. After the death of his teammate, Monton sneaked into his home and stole his teammates' belongings. The help of skill thief. Destroy this card. There is a high probability of destroying the organ in front of you. The success rate is related to the complexity of the organ. Leaving Monton without permission. During the mission, Monton, who bought smuggled goods, gave up his mission goal and had a serious accident. Skill distraction. Destroy this card, remind the target of important things, and give up what is currently being done with a high probability. The success rate is related to the target's strength. Looked at the 3 cards in front of him, William subconsciously chose to escape without a chance of failure, and then realized that there was something wrong. How come a system is so good? It was enough to surprise him to be able to obtain magic that he could only imagine. He even considered having to squat in Azkaban for a year as a necessary price. I am preparing to use this time to practice magic, and then take a good look after he is released from prison. Why did this magical world suddenly hang up? Forget it, there are all traverses, it is not unacceptable to come to a system, it is all coming. Ignoring the system, William looked at the guy in front of him again. 2 short looped legs, one with long, tousled hair, a pair of swollen and bloodshot eyes looking at William eagerly, trying to save him from William. The whole person is pitiful, replaced by a minute ago. William, there is a high probability that they will persuade the others in the cell to give a lesson and it will be over. As for William, who is sleeping next to the toilet, he certainly doesn't care. 9 Fingers waited eagerly. Reading www.yuyugonshu.com. But now, let's not talk about anything else, just for the 3 cards William drawn, he feels so much about the guy in front of him. How come this guy doesn't do anything about people? Escape, steal the home of a dead teammate, leave without authorization. Like this kind of stuff, William has to hide away on rainy days. If a thunder comes down one day, what should I do if I don't hit him? So, after a pause, William spoke. Monton's eyes showed a ray of hope, and other people also looked over, especially Josie. He was afraid that William would be soft-hearted and his bed would be gone. Okay, the beating is almost done. William smiled and looked at the cellmate. Monton's eyes shone with gratitude. Always give people a chance to reform and rehabilitate. It doesn't make sense to fight all the time. Although he was going to lie to us once, but he didn't lie to us. The head of the cell raised his eyebrows. He felt that he couldn't let William speak anymore. However, William changed his voice. There is an event called confession on the Muggle side. 9 Fingers, you play the role of a Muggle priest and make him regret it. Try to tell all the things he feels guilty, and put together 300 things. 300 pieces? Everyone laughed in an instant. This is the fact that even the fried cow dung was not enough for the time being as a child. 9 Fingers were also enthusiastic and stood pretendingly. Hurry up and say, we will forgive you, but you have to sincerely regret it. If you don't say it, you are still planning to lie to us. Don't blame us for not giving you a chance to regret. A few people who were idle and painful followed, saying that they were going to help with the count. For a time, the whole cell was filled with laughter. While a group of people were smiling and watching the newcomer named Monton, William began to hide away and study the so-called system. First of all, when he whispered, the system would appear in front of him as a transparent screen even if he was tightly against the wall. At present, the system has a total of 4 panels. Regardless of the others, William first communicated with the personal panel. Lee William Humanity Witcher Specialty, Magic 2, Eloquence 1, Learning 1, Arithmetic 0, Language 0. How to read the last line of remarks is a mockery. Excluding the fact that the magic level does not even have a number in the front, the fact that the entire personal panel does not have a plus sign is very telling. Obviously, it is impossible for Deep Blue to add something to me. That eloquence one caused William to fall into contemplation. Isn't it just the reason for the lack of prison entertainment that he can mix up with stories? Accompanied by doubts, he clicked and opened the warehouse, lying alone in the... But after clicking it now, there are more character information on the card. Mondungus Fletcher, Steel 2, Magic 1, Concealment 1, Communication 1. The special card is not unlocked, the classic card is not unlocked, the friend card is not unlocked, and the unknown card XN is not unlocked. Huo, the co-author is still a small card pool. According to the prompts of the system unlocking meeting, there are probably a few treasure chests that can be opened on this mountain. After closing the warehouse and discovering that the achievement page was full of grey question marks, William simply cut to the card drawing panel. Very good, there is still no hint. It took another 10 minutes to scan all the corners of all panels where there may be translucent characters or tiny places where the characters are almost invisible, but still nothing is found. There is no prompt, no prohibition, all functions have to be guessed. This is worse than limiting, but it should be used. Even though he said that, William would never use that escape card to escape Azkaban. This is not because everyone in the cell is talented and speaks nicely, but because he has only 1 year left in his sentence, and now he will be wanted by the Ministry of Magic and chased by Dementors when he escapes. William, what are you doing? Lying down without saying a word, losing your money is distressed? I tell you, listen to me, take advantage of the next big blast to help people, give them a few paragraphs. Point Garen will be back soon. With a smirk that couldn't be restrained, the big one stretched his head to William's side, still flirting. William pushed him away in an angry manner. There was no one who squatted in the alley with a knife in the middle of the night without paying. He was doing this kind of intermediary work, which really made him suspect that the attackers had caught people by mistake. Are you still reviewing? It's early, I have only compiled 80 articles, and then I have repetitions, and I'm trying to make up a nonsense after 2 strokes with 9 fingers. Everyone knows that the newcomer is making up, but everyone doesn't care. The Dementor the happiness away, so have more fun. Bullying the newcomer is a tradition. Anyway, you can get into Azkaban's goods, 90% of the time. Not a good product. At this moment, among the crowd of onlookers, the newcomer gritted his teeth and said his 91st crime. Well, when I was studying at Hogwarts, I went to the girls' dormitory to peek. In the whistle and the sound of such a roar, 9 Fingers, who acted as a priest, responded with a smile, "You will be forgiven, what else do you want to say?" The newcomer breathed a long breath, then became nervous again, and began to rack his brains to make up the next one. Girls' dormitory? Boys can't enter the girls' dormitory. When everyone was satisfied, a rebuttal suddenly appeared in the crowd. Everyone looked sideways, the one who was staring at him shrank his subconsciously, then raised his head, and argued unconvincingly, "I've tried it." This time he managed to escape the fate of being beaten. The crowd of onlookers stared at the bewildered Montan with their eyes blatantly and maliciously. "Hey, okay, letting you confess is to give you a chance to reform, and you dare to continue to lie to us." The 9-finger pretending face couldn't hold back his righteousness, he pretended to be fierce, and pointed at the big man next to William to frighten people. "Have you seen the one over there? It has been 2 years since I came in and killed 3 prisoners, then helped the Dementor chew and bury the bones under the wall over there, without even adding the sentence. This is Azkaban, it's normal to die." This kind of remark is very lethal to people who have never been to prison, and the whole person is sitting there with his head trembling with both hands. "Big brother, you continue to beat me up. I even said that I was lazy and didn't change my underwear when I was young. I really don't have any crime to explain." With the cry of crying, amused everyone who was in the enclosure, simply walked away and gave a beating, threw a rag and let the toilet clean. Montan didn't even have the desire to resist, so he ran to the toilet diligently, 9 fingers pointing cheerfully, and removed his luggage by the way. The prisoner who doesn't speak from ear to ear also loses the desire to continue training newcomers. Yu reading www.yuuganshu.com gathered up a pile and found out a set of stone-polished wizard chess. A group of people guarded a drawn chessboard and put out a posture. There is no magic on the chess pieces, just a dry addiction. William didn't squeeze a lot with them. He looked at Montan, who was competing against the toilet at the foot of the wall, and finally gave up his plan to put pressure on the other party again. A lot of unlocked cards were displayed brightly, and the only possible change was emotions. Now, there are a lot of emotions on top of awe. But it's a bit too much to hold a sheep's wool. The other party is nothing but a hint on the card. You can use it as a reference, but you can't believe it all. If you are obedient, it would be too much to make a whole person. Just when he retracted his gaze, he stared at William and said something. "Why, William Jr., do you think it's a bit too tough? Where did you see it?" William subconsciously wanted to roll his eyes, but finally took it back. He thought it was a normal persona if he was too cruel, and he wanted to be a bit crueler. It is estimated that all the people in the cell would listen to it as a joke before going to bed. "Okay, look at your aggrieved situation. More than half of the people in this prison are scum." Before Montan, his hands and feet were not clean. It is okay to come in and receive a lesson. Your kid is also well destined, and no one rejects the crimes committed. Looks comfortable, he hasn't been conditioned, he's such a stuff, he can turn other people's beds empty in a few days without giving a lesson. Cut. The cell shook his head and ended the preaching in a tone of extreme disdain. He lay on the pillow and closed his eyes. She got a lot of goods from outside today, and exchanged a lot in various cells, and he was already tired. Others also suppressed their voices when they saw it. As time passed, the moonlight deviated from the narrow window, and the entire cell was dimmed. Another night in Azkaban is over. The days in jail are boring and tasteless. If there is no regular meal for the Dementors once a day, life here can be said to be as ordinary as water. But it is a pity that no prisoner welcomes the Dementors to come and have a little excitement. Even a little bit of new information is invaluable to the prisoners here. If a newspaper is delivered, the greedy prisoners are not even willing to let go of the advertisements in the cracks, let alone the prison room or the freshness that appears. It's up. The criminals' own business is also the old sesame seeds and rotten grains, and they can't escape those routines, stealing and robbing them over and over. The cheaters, kidnappers, murderers, and arsonists were quite surprised when they first came. After squatting for 2 months and looking at the newcomer, they knew why they came in. They didn't even have the desire to inquire. Occasionally, if someone commits a strange crime, the neighboring cells will be excited like a Chinese New Year. It's like saying that half a month ago, William and the others came to the prison next door to violate the magical creature protection law. Generally speaking, people who violate this law either harm endangered species or secretly breed creatures that are prohibited from private breeding, but this is different. He did research and sent himself to Azkaban, and his sentence was still long. If he hadn't been greeted before he came in, he would have stayed on the side of the felon. According to his self-introduction, he has published 13 papers on centaur, including centaur reproduction behavior research and centaur feeding cub behavior research. A series of works such as research on centaur embryo development. After these papers became famous, after the angry centaur negotiated with the Ministry of Magic, the man was prosecuted and sent to Azkaban. It is said that the Ministry of Magic officials searched for a long time before finding a basis for the prosecution. I have been the topic of this story in Azkaban for a whole week, and I can know how lack of daily entertainment here. And today, the prisoners in each cell have been given a new way of entertainment. Last night William's method of renovating the newcomers in his cell has spread throughout the entire area of light sentence prisoners through the adjacent cells. This new routine of idleness and letting newcomers do confession has been accepted by almost all cells. Azkaban is a place where no democracy is concerned. One cell with 8 people, tossing a newcomer to entertain 7 old people is such a cost-effective thing, no one is unwilling. As for newcomers, they are willing to be the best. If they are unwilling, others will teach. He will. So when William gave up studying the system that came suddenly and changed to studying magic, he unexpectedly received a series of system messages. This is probably the only thing of value in these 20 boxes. At the same time, William also knows roughly how to get more boxes and whether only cards of relevant characters can be opened in the boxes. Ran an egg. Trapped in a cell and unable to get out, he does not have the ability to buy more treasure chests. This system does not help him much at this moment unless he is willing to escape the prison under the name of being wanted, and he may not succeed. William put away the system and continued to study magic. Is another big day in January. William once again refused the big man's kind invitation and began to wander among the prisoners. I got a massage. The massage with the potion, 2 chocolates and 1, is genuine and fair, and the female offender is half price for a limited time. Kalen has changed his cigarette. 1 full cigarette for 1 gallon, and 1 cigarette for 3 wests. The canned food has changed to newspapers, 4 cans a can, 4 cans a can, it's cheaper, it's cheaper. All kinds of yelling and shouting are just right. It just happens to be heard by the prisoners and won't reach the ears of overtime batters, and William feels this kind of breath that is close to the normal human market in it. Although some of these transactions will not be seen in the normal trading market, they can be regarded as special Azkaban transactions. However, there is no other ancient human transaction besides the killer. It has happened before, but the excessive joy in the air has attracted the attention of the Dementors, and those guys can't stop them when they can't control themselves. It is said that the man is still anxiously checking the advertisements in various magic newspapers and magazines after he was released from prison. And while William was wandering around, read www.uyugonshu.com to wipe the toilet for a whole month and to be on duty to warn the Dementor Montan sneaked into the corner of the prison. The batters were happily exchanging how much gold could be exchanged for worthless things this time on duty. They all changed their faces when they saw the prisoner coming over. They were not afraid that someone would sue a black account because of this, mainly because the new prisoner offended it. Up their authority. Montan was controlled by magic almost instantly. When he shouted that I wanted to see Mad-Eye Moody, the batter had already kicked it over. You dare to call the name of Lord Moody? The thin and tall hitter has a look of disdain. Mad-Eye Moody is an Auror, a trump card in the Ministry of Magic. He has a strong record and is a big shot in the hitting hand. Although he has retired, he occasionally still will be invited to teach percussion hands, with a high reputation. Don't look at the hitters who are making money, but this does not affect their worship of crazy-eyed men. I promised to be an informant, please tell the crazy-eyed guy. The 2 strikers at the front glanced at each other and nodded. There are few informants who can't get things done. It's common to get more information by treating individuals who have not committed serious crimes lightly. I'm Mondungus Fletcher, crazy-eyed people know me. Montan let out a sigh, and quickly said to the batter. He had known Mad Eyes a long time ago and helped Dumbledore through him, but the work was too dangerous. This time his sentence was not long, and he didn't want to contact Mad Eyes at all. This sentence is more dangerous than those. It's a long way off. Unfortunately, after a month of living in Azkaban, he suddenly discovered that it was actually good to help the crazy-eyed people. 2 duplicate cards came out from the new treasure chest, and a new card came out. Smuggler Montan. In most underground markets, there are rumors of the Smuggler Montan. It is said that if you give him enough garin, he can bring you any supplies. Skill transaction. Destroy this card. In the purchase of any item, you can pay a currency far exceeding the price of the item to successfully purchase the item. Without any hesitation, William once again chose a card with no chance of failure. Then, he quickly turned to the system warehouse and found that the remarks behind the Montan card had been changed to hate. Good fellow, this didn't fix him either. Couldn't the Josie guys have a door on their mouths, and Montan heard it when they said things as a joke? Is not impossible. William speculated as he walked towards a young child. He has made it clear these days, if there is a guy in the prison who knows the basics of magic education, it must be this guy. It's not that this young child is a prodigy, who can count the Ministry of Magic at a young age to be arrested in prison. The main reason this guy is clear is because he was studying at Hogwarts not long ago. It is well known that where there is an exam, there will be people who cheat, and a school as big as Hogwarts will catch people who cheat every year. Even if he caught the normal exam, this guy was caught cheating on the OWL exam. Not to mention his expulsion, he had to squat in Azkaban in the first half of the year, and he was admitted to Azkaban for advanced studies. Hogwarts is not a place where everyone can graduate. Most of the prisoners of Azkaban are Hogwarts, either they hang too many exams, or they release magic outside the school, or they drop out of school, seriously violating the school rules. There are so many inmates, and most of the remaining prisoners are graduates from Hogwarts. If you don't refer to other information and just look at the school the prisoner is attending, you might think that Hogwarts is doing a joint activity with Azkaban. Guys like William who have never read Hogwarts but were brought out by older wizards. Although not rare in the Wizarding Society, they are the least pitiful for Azkaban. This generation of generations the wizards handed down all have unique skills in eating mixed food, and the crimes may be much smaller. When William found the guy named Goat, this guy was selling potions. Actually, that thing is not a potion. Without the help of a magic wand when boiling, most potions will lose their effect, otherwise the class of potions will not stop so many wizards. Compared with a series of standardized behaviors such as simply measuring the proportion of materials and the order of addition, suitable magic power is more important to help the potion shape. And this kind of potion promoted by Goat is a low-quality mixture formed without a magic wand and relying solely on the unstable magical control of the wizard and the action of the herbal medicine itself. The composition is quite unstable, and the effect of taking it from the time of diarrhea before being sent to the hospital keep beating. But this thing is not for drinking, but for use. William easily recognized that this is an incomplete version of the ecstasy. After all, the original body is a potion, and he has gained more knowledge in this aspect from his memory. Although this medicine cannot be taken, it is completely enjoyable in Azkaban just to smell the taste. Although it has a pungent smell that has not been cooked, it can be used as a prison's top medicine in terms of this effect. This medicine reminds people of their favorite taste. The new Bandruga taste that is more addictive than chocolate. The Goat enthusiastically promoted it towards William, with an ecstatic look that made it impossible to see that he was a prisoner of Azkaban. Edifice. William raised his brows. What price? Experts, Chinjui 50 gallons a bottle and tea be too expensive. This is Azkaban, this small bottle will save you enough for a month. A month? William smiled. Judging from his half-hearted knowledge, this thing can be called a miracle if it can exist stably for 2 weeks. She is afraid of exploding in his pocket when this semi-finished potion is sent to him. Seeing that William had no intention of paying for the money, the Goat instantly changed his face. He waved his hand impatiently. Poor ghost, go fast, don't affect my business. Ha, you are really not afraid of being beaten to death after the medicine expires? William turned and left directly. He didn't even mean to continue to communicate. He originally thought that after a student from the other side came to Azkaban, he would definitely not be able to eat or sleep well. He took some chocolate left over from the week and changed the other party about Hog. The statement of Watt's teaching content is also considered a fair deal. But now, the other party has such a big deal, and the chocolate doesn't even have the meaning of buying it. People are looking toward the money all the time. Who cares about your broken chocolate? It took a long time for Montan to finally convince Moody that he was just too tired to take a break or pretending to believe, but Montan could not ask for more. In front of the old man, he was naturally embarrassed to throw away his face and take off his pants to leave some surprises for the inmates. Reading www.yuyugonshu.com could only leave Azkaban with the crazy-eyed man with endless regrets. Class. However, he finally took the 9 scoring and 15 nats, which was the final deprivation of the wealth of those bastards. As a smuggler of part-time thieves, he has never left a settlement empty-handed. This is the face. Although the crazy-eyed man sneered at this, and even wanted to destroy the money and the changed prison uniforms on the outlying island ship, Montan insisted on keeping the spoils. Mondungus, you are not allowed to steal this time after you are released from prison. If you enter Azkaban again, don't think about me looking at an old friend and scooping you out. Of course not, I still want to help Dumbledore do things for a few more years. The long-lost freedom and the fresh air brought by the sea breeze made Montan extremely comfortable. He even said in a cheerful tone what he thought was impossible to say before he went to prison. Compared to the horrible place of Azkaban, the things Dumbledore had to do were so easy. He could even go fishing and lazy while working and then help the Ministry of Magic with a batch of cheap goods. Crazy-eyed man looked at Montan carefully, and then smiled. I guess you can't help much this time. Albus is worried. Is there anything Dumbledore can't handle? Montan's tone was full of confidence. He had more confidence in Dumbledore than in himself. Yes, Hogwarts is short of defense against the dark arts professor, can't you try it? What a difficult thing is this, can't I? Montan said half of the words, and Montan quickly patted his hand on his mouth, forcing himself to swallow the second half. Hogwarts is a good school. Although the income of being a professor in a school is not very impressive, in other aspects, being a professor at Hogwarts is a career choice that satisfies most people. Except the defense against the dark arts professor. After Hogwarts recruited a bunch of defense against the dark arts professors at the speed of using professors as ingredients, the folks began to spread Hogwarts cannibalism. The defense against the dark arts professor at Hogwarts A post has been cursed. What's more terrible is that not only this speculation has not been refuted, but the recruitment of defense against the dark arts professors at Hogwarts has never stopped. So, Montan almost instantly stuffed the sentence, try it back into his stomach. What an international joke, he just escaped from the ghost place of Azkaban through his relationship, really let him be a black man. If the defense of magic professor, it is better to send him back to Azkaban, at least that place Dementor guards no worries of life. Thinking of Azkaban, he couldn't help but shudder again. The group of had no morals, and bullying him, a poor middle-aged wizard, was really not good at all, especially the guy's tricks, saying yes randomly arbitrarily rectified, and the result was a set of confession and a set of toilet flushing, which was completely prepared. Especially the youngest one was full of bad water, and there was no wrongdoing in Azkaban. A thought poured into his mind for an instant, and then he couldn't get rid of it again. What if you let those guys go to Hogwarts to become a defense against the dark arts professor? Yukong solved Dumbledore's big problem, and USI avenged him again. Don't think that the other party might have left Azkaban early because of this, but none of the professors in that position can wait 1 year. And there is a high probability that you will have to stay in the hospital for a while when you leave. Thinking of this, Montan's smile couldn't be restrained, and the corners of his mouth opened a clear arc. If you can't find a professor outside, you can go to Azkaban. There are so many people there. Somewhat tangled with black magic, I am definitely willing to become a professor in order to get out of prison. Be a professor and teach them to go to Azkaban. Moody looked at Montan with a broken expression. On your brain. I think I have caught enough prisoners in Azkaban. I don't need Hogwarts to send talents inside. Not every prisoner should stay there for a lifetime. If you are a lighter sentencer, you can still educate some normal content. Montan felt more and more that his idea might be realized. If he had to use the professor for a shorter period of time, those lightly sentenced offenders would undoubtedly be the best choice. The crimes committed can be forgiven to a certain extent, but they will not be forgiven. A broken jar can't get the job done well. If he chooses this way, the probability of a fellow in his cell becoming a professor is too high. No matter which becomes a professor, it will be a profit for him. Do 2 things with one idea, and there is no loss in blood. When William and the others returned to the cell, they found that their cell was stolen again. But everyone's interest is quite high this time, and there is no loss at all. After all, this time it adds up to less than a gallon. In prison, it is not even as valuable as the chocolate they consume every day. I am not happy because of the loss of money, but because this cell will soon be filled with a new prisoner. This means a lot of outside news and new fun, which is quite a celebration for Azkaban, whose daily life is boring. Although those replenishing ships occasionally bring a newspaper in, but that kind of popular goods is not only expensive, and there are not many interesting things. How can the living prisoners bring so much information? If there is another new prisoner with the same talent as William, wouldn't it be double happiness? William is also very happy. The newcomer means a new treasure chest. What if this card can be drawn with a higher rarity? Or this time a graduate student from Hogwarts, cheating on exams or using magic outside of school, that is also a very good thing, it will make his slow magic research continuously break through several levels. Unfortunately, everyone guessed wrong this time. It's not a human who came in this time. Although it has long been known that this magical world is real, and that there are a lot of inhuman existences in the magical world, after an inhuman magical creature becomes his inmate, William is still not good. This is a completely small monster, with two big bat-like ears, two protruding eyes, not much smaller than a tennis ball. Most importantly, it looks like a cute character. Is not tall and has dirty clothes. When he came in, he was almost thrown in by the blower. The batter didn't even intend to say witty words. After throwing this guy in, he left with a black face, as if this little guy owed him a lot of money but couldn't pay it back, so he could only throw him into prison to get out of anger. Hey, William, blessed is our cell. The big thief patted William on the shoulder, letting William's desire to complain about it in his heart. Luckily the big one didn't say that our cell was rich. Enduring the overflowing complaints, William pointed at the magical creature he didn't know. What is that? You don't even know this smuggler. Where did you come from? Like your kind of farming, how can you complain about all the grains? Coincidentally, Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com has been in the industry for a short time. I haven't seen it yet. What is this? The house elves, the top home assistants, are also in the pure-blooded family. Tisk, this is a status symbol. It's expensive. Your smuggling is for money and money all day long. There is no pursuit at all. No wonder your stories are all human beings. Mingmei and Centaur are also great, okay. What's wrong is you, okay. Also, you guy on the black market, how can you be more confident than smuggling? Everyone is squatting in Azkaban. Don't tell me the second brother is okay? Well, let me tell you this. Not only do these guys don't need a gnat's salary, they eat less and do more, but they are also loyal. When serving a family, they will never think about changing jobs to another home. Their strength is also considered to be one. Good hands, waiting school graduates may not be able to beat these house elves. The big guy was talking and looking at the skylight, as if he was imagining that he had a house elf. The most important thing is that these guys do better than the best housekeepers. Whether you live in an ordinary house or a huge castle, it can be managed in an orderly manner, and it will be delicious on the back of your home. Meals, warm the fireplace, wash all the clothes, wipe all the furniture, and this, you don't need to pay a gnat. Good guy, smart furniture is not so convenient. William couldn't help but also became envious. Just when he dreamed that he would also be mixed with a house elf, the new inmate stood up. Hello, my name is Gold Coin. The new house elf raised his head and looked serious. As long as you pay me enough Canaan, I will provide the most perfect service for my employer. A graduate of Hogwarts who sells illegal potions, a felon like a walking dead, and a researcher who researched himself into a cell all kinds of magicians, William, think he knows a lot better, but he never expected that the first non-human race in the magic world I encountered was also a strange flower. The house elf who died asking for money. The big guy used a series of introductions and fantasies to shape the characteristics of this race, and then the guy in front of him destroyed everything with 2 sentences. I have to bear it. The big guy is a good person, and it's normal to have accidents occasionally. Kukuku, William couldn't hold back. The big man turned his head to look at William, his expression was full of helplessness. Smile as you want, don't hold back. The new inmate is a strange thing among the house elves, and he can fight very well. After rejecting the cleaning responsibilities that the newcomers should bear, several guys who were going to routinely teach the newcomers were taught a lesson by this little man with fast fists and agile pace. When the more able-bodied guys were knocked down and only William and the others who were inexperienced in fighting were left, the newcomers naturally became a second-class existence. They were all light prisoners, not so many fighting and killing. After everyone calmed down, the house elf called Gold Coin described his dream. He is unwilling to do anything that traditional house elves are used to: cleaning the house, cooking, and handling all kinds of household chores. His dream is to be a great adventurer. If you step back, mercenaries can also be fine. At present, he has taught himself how to solve common magic traps, the identification and response of common wild magical creatures, magic heraldry, wild survival, and a series of subjects that will be useful in adventures, and he is actively preparing for the establishment of his own adventure team. Funds. However, all these preparations were still dead. He was sent to Azkaban because he was unwilling to perform servant services and was unable to pay the redemption fee. I tried to persuade them. As long as I go out for a year, I can bring back the 300 gallons that I have redeemed, but they don't want to believe me. The gold coin is leaning against the bed in the corner, with a melancholy expression. So, I am now a mercenary gold coin. As long as you have Canaan, you can hire me to do all kinds of things. Of course, I will not do things like staying here for a while and cleaning. Really has personality. William estimated that someone in the cell was absolutely tempted, because he was tempted too. A guy who can hit like this can almost be called 5 or 6 prisoners in prison. When no one has a magic wand, his fist is the last word. Such a big killer can be taken care of by spending money. Who is not tempted? But soon William turned around and fell asleep. No money, goodbye. Hogwarts, the main tower of the school castle, the principal's office. An old man with a flowing silver beard is looking sad at the letter in front of him. He is currently recognized as the strongest white wizard in the entire magical world, a living legend, a walking epic, and what is more terrifying is that he is as powerful as he is, and he has white hair that is flowing and soft, even reaching his waist. This letter was sent by an old friend of his. In the letter, this friend proposed a new solution to a problem he faced, but it was this new method that brought him more problems. After thinking for a long time, the old man finally picked up a piece of parchment and wrote a few words on it in a hurry. After clever folding, accompanied by the wave of the magic wand, the parchment turned into a paper airplane and plunged into the flame of the fireplace. Within a quarter of an hour, the office door opened, and an anxious female voice came over with the sound of footsteps. Albus, I am very happy to see you in your office when the school is busiest. To be honest, although there are not a single student in the school now, there are too many things to be busy with. If you don't mind, if so, I hope you can review the funding application report for next month and write a funding application report to the Ministry of Magic. The tall, dark-haired witch in emerald green robe said to the old man in a suggested tone, but her eyes firmly told the old man if I didn't do this, I would strike. Minerva McGonagall, the deputy headmaster of Hogwarts, at this moment finally caught Albus Dumbledore, the headmaster who had cleaned up daily affairs. Albus showed helpless eyes, smiled gently, and then handed over the letter that had bothered him. Come on, some sizzling bee candy, Minerva. Habitually glanced at the name at the end of the letter, which made Professor McGonagall frowned, but soon her eyebrows became tangled, and she dropped the letter directly on the table. What a joke! Albus, I don't understand what you mean by calling me. If you are consulting me, My opinion is absolutely no. Relax, Minerva, this is just an idea. Let the prisoners of Azkaban come to Hogwarts. What the is this? Teach those kids how to get to Azkaban. Actually, compared to last year's defense against the dark arts professor at UU reading www.uugonshu.com, I think the prisoners of Azkaban seem to be safer. This sentence calmed Professor McGonagall. As one of the few insiders, she knew very well what the status of the defense against the dark arts professor last year was. Last year, the defense against the dark arts professor at Hogwarts was the least the person who should be selected as the professor. The mysterious person who has been hiding is attached to the back of the professor's head, lurking in Hogwarts for almost a year. What's more terrible is that he doesn't seem to be able to control the curse himself. Albus, can't you solve it? Professor McGonagall couldn't help asking, but quickly realized his mistake. If the curse could be easily resolved, Hogwarts would not hire professors so frequently. In fact, all the professors over the years have felt that they have unique insights in defense against the dark arts, and want to become famous by solving this curse that even Dumbledore can't handle. Each of them was told what they might encounter before they came, but everyone thought that I would be fine. But now there are fewer and fewer people who dare to challenge. In fact, they even had to use the precious combat power of the Order of the Phoenix in this post. They could have done more outside the school. Open the school board and tell them the current problems of the school. Either invest more money in the position of Professor of Defense against the Dark Arts, or let them agree to go to Azkaban to recruit prisoners, or let them provide candidates anyway. The school must have a defense against the dark arts professor. Professor McGonagall expertly found an endorser for this new policy, and the two unanimously passed the decision. Normally, the school management committee is in a state of crushing the school. Although the principal is not easy to change, it is not too difficult to find an excuse to change the principal. But Hogwarts is different. After all, this is the only magic school. The school's right to speak is naturally much greater. In addition, the principal himself is also strong, although he doesn't put any cruel words. If that group of titles is put in the game, can take up half of the screen. Is still full of ambilight, full of special effects, all points are out of print titles, high gold content is scary. In this case, the school board can only be reduced to those pure-blooded families who are unwilling to spend money to buy status. For the recruitment of new professors this time, it is absolutely necessary to convene a meeting of the school directors, not to make them take the blame, but to let them know that Hogwarts did not leave the school board aside. Plan. It's not good to say that, even if it's a backing, the board of directors will rush to memorize it, and it's a very happy kind of memorial. Otherwise, who would have thought of such a board of directors? Azkaban. William was holding a pen and paper, looking at this worthless thing in the past, but his heart could not be suppressed with joy. It's really hard to find this thing in Azkaban when this thing was worthless in the past. He even used one side to make a draft, but now, it's not much cheaper than silver. As far as entrainment is concerned, simple paper and pens will not take up less space than book pages, and the group of Dementors in the prison will not provide prisoners with these things. If it is not for the face of the cell head, this time the trustee will bring more. He now has to write and draw on the ground with a wooden stick in his cell. Of course, the main reason why the cell boss is willing to help bring paper and pen is also because William said that the recent lack of inspiration and the need to use paper and pen to create and modify some new stories. In short, this excuse for drawing materials successfully helped William obtain the pen and paper for writing and drawing, and it also increased his speed in the study of magic in his mind to a new level. Without pen and paper, the principle of the too long potion, the content of the class is too difficult to review. If you just write it with a small wooden stick, it is estimated that half of the cell will not fit. As for the research on the system, there has been almost no progress during this period. There are too few people in the other cells. It is impossible to achieve the recognition condition that does not know the basis of the judgment, and the newcomer in the cell where William himself is in the cell only recognizes Jin Jialong. Although he was afraid of the Dementors who visited every day like other wizards, unfortunately, he was not interested in William's story at all. It was like Sundashan picked peaches after he settled down on the 7 fairies. The fact that he was not interested in the gold coins made William's purchase of another treasure box vanish. After today's routine story meeting, the big thief asked toward the foot of the wall, "I said gold coins, why do you want to be an adventurer? Can make a lot of jin jialong." "Hey, so ideal, what about after making a lot of gold? Earn more Canaan. When you don't have enough money, what do you want to do when you have about the same amount of Canaan? Hire more people, take better adventures, go to Egypt, go to the North Pole, go to Africa, go to dig those buried treasures. Hey, so much money, didn't you think about doing something else? What else? What else?" The gold coin widened his eyes, which are bigger than a tennis ball, and pointed at William, like the William story. He shrugged disdainfully, "Oh, women will only affect my exploration." The people in the cell were stunned for an instant. They were actually despised by a house elf. Until the rotating bath time on Sunday evening, William and the others came out of the fact that they were despised by the house elves. After hurriedly taking a bath and watching the gold coin hit the criminal who discriminated against him, William took out the precious paper and pen, and once again doubted whether his head was flooded because of the bath. After entangled again and again, he wrote on the paper. "Diary, I don't know the specific day of the sentence, but the 3rd day when he got the pen and paper. On the 1st day I just came in, I was still remembering the time, but it was quickly forgotten by me. There's no way, life in prison is really boring. Even if everyone talks nonsense, there are not many new topics to talk about. They spend time in prison every day, during the day. It's a long time to make people fall apart, and the routine black-skinned meal in the evening can't make people get used to it no matter how many times they come. I live in a muddle-headed manner, and I don't know where to count the days I am released from prison. I am even used to bullying new prisoners. The gold coin is silly, but it's enviable. I'm still passing by, but he has a clear goal and works hard for it, even if he learns that all the Canaan in the entire cell has been touched by 2 guys who have been released from prison. It was just decadent for half an hour. From today, be a better version of yourself. Also, the price of the big guy has increased, 1 gallon 1, how did he get so much money? 6th day I got 30 gallons, and the gold coin seemed willing to accept employment at this price, but after considering the difficulty of getting the box, I gave up the gold. 7 I was not very diligent today and got 10 gallons, but unexpectedly made considerable progress in other things. The big guy is stunned, and he wants to buy the diary together. Would I care about these 3 or 2 Canaan? 8 a boring day, nothing happened, no progress. 9 15 gallons paid. 18 today's Azkaban is extremely lively. The strikers arrived on the island ahead of time, and the cells were carefully cleaned once. In the big words, it's almost clean and doesn't look like a place to live. Those prisoners who are about to be released are carefully cleaning all corners of the island, like a big cleaning. Is it the custom of the wizarding world?